Get in the kitchen and make me a sandwich woman. You can't say that anymore because we've abolished traditional gender roles for men and women. Or have we? Men are constantly told to stop playing video games and get a real job. And I just have to ask, how is this any different than forcing a woman to clean and cook? Working was a traditional gender role for men, the same way housework was a traditional gender role for women. So, stop telling me to get a job unless you're prepared to tell women to clean and cook again. That's the definition of hypocrisy. You can't have it both ways. This rant might come across as anti-feminist, but it's really the most pro-feminist viewpoint if you actually think about it. Feminists only want women to have half the jobs. I think women are so strong and empowered, they should take all the jobs and pay for us to stay home to do what we enjoy. So, I don't want to be a toxic, red-pilled, misogynistic woman hater. I really don't. If you're a woman watching this, understand that I don't want to force you back into the kitchen. I don't want to take away your right to vote. I don't want to send you back to the 1950s. But here's my issue. You still want to force me to go to the office and send me back to the 1950s. It's this weird thing where I can't tell you to get in the kitchen and make me a sandwich, but you can tell me to get a job and pay for dates? This is why people hate modern feminism so much. I don't think it has as much to do with angry, women-hating misogynists as people think. Most people are generally for equal treatment of other human beings. They just want fair and consistent standards for everyone. You wanted your right to work, you fought for it. Fair enough. But when you got your right to work, you lost your right to demand I get a job and pay for dates. It's that simple. One of the biggest challenges that a lot of young men feel today is that no one on either side of the political spectrum has their best interests in mind these days. We all know how much the left hates young men, but to be honest, the right isn't much better. The right, for the most part, advocates a return to traditional gender roles and norms. A lot of discourse has been force-fed down our throats about how bad traditional gender roles were for women, but you could easily make the case that it was even worse for men. Long, tedious work hours in horrible factory conditions, being drafted into wars and dying for politicians who wouldn't even know your name. A lot of red pill content is just recycling the same old traditional masculinity concepts that simply don't work anymore in 2024. A lot of young guys fall down this rabbit hole, but I don't really blame them because there's just not a lot of better alternatives out there. Make no mistake, not everything about traditional masculinity was bad or toxic. You definitely should improve yourself and become the best version of yourself. But you should first and foremost be doing this for yourself. The left wants you to do it for women. The right wants you to do it for society. Everyone from every corner is trying to hardcore force men back into traditional, archaic 1950s gender roles. They still want men to toil away for corporations who don't care about them. They still want men to die in wars, while at the same time saying we shouldn't go back to the 1950s when it comes to women. The hypocrisy is absolutely incredible from both sides. Let's talk about how gamers are viewed by women. It's no secret that women love to shame men for playing video games. They want us to grow up and get a real job. So let's bring out the facts. For decades, feminists have been fighting for equal rights. You don't want to be limited to being in the kitchen and taking care of children. Fair enough. Today, you have equal rights. You can have your own career, you can make your own money, you don't need a man, so do it. Don't ask me to stop playing video games and get a real job because that would mean you actually do need a man's money. You wanted to eliminate traditional gender roles, so fine, let's do it. If I can't ask you to get in the kitchen and make a sandwich, you can't ask me to stop playing video games and get a real job. It is no secret by this point that young men are dropping out of the workforce at a precipitous rate. Both right-wing traditionalists and left-wing feminists are trying to hardcore blame and shame them back into working, as if those tactics ever work on anyone. Some call this lazy, but I view this more as a smart adaptation to modern society. I don't know about you, but I think way more than 7 million young women have dropped out of cooking and cleaning these days, but you don't see them shamed for it the same way. It's actually funny because almost every young guy I know these days has learned to cook quite well, because it's become obvious to them that this generation's women don't know how to do it anymore. We haven't even covered the biggest elephant in the room, which is that the current disastrous economy we live in, caused by the boomer traditionalists who shame us for not working, simply does not allow for men to fulfill traditional gender roles even if they wanted to. Part of the reason men of past generations were happy to fulfill traditional gender roles of paying for dates and being a gentleman was simply because they had better jobs and more money to do so. All right, so what are some solutions that I could recommend for young men today? Normally, being selfish is a very bad way to be. But being selfish when everyone and everything around you is trying to exploit you is survival. This is a great YouTube comment I read the other day, and I'd recommend young men to generally have this mindset. Focus on what you like and what you enjoy first and foremost. Find your passion. It does not have to make you money. It does not have to help you get girls. Find a passion that makes you happy. Not society, not your parents, not girls. If you happen to enjoy starting a business, making money, and being able to buy nice things, great. Just be careful around women if you become really successful at it. But if you just enjoy working out, playing video games, hanging out with your bros while living with your parents, that should be completely fine and normalized as well. Dropping out of society is not inherently a bad thing. Society is not entitled to your contribution. I'm sure you've all been told that the world doesn't owe you anything, but if that's the case, you don't owe the world anything either. Maybe one day society will value your contribution once again. When that day comes, we can have a different conversation. Until then, just do what makes you happy and show this video to anyone who tries to shame you back into traditional gender roles.